If you change your thinking, you change your life. And there is no other way. There's a great question in goal setting and personal success I wanted to start off with. And the question is, what one great thing would you dare to dream if you knew you could not fail? If you were absolutely guaranteed a success in any goal, big or small, short or long term, if you could wave a magic wand, take a pill, but you'd be absolutely guaranteed, what one goal would you set for yourself? And when you ask that question, usually big goals come into your mind. You'd be rich, you'd be famous, you'd be powerful. But when you ask the question, what happens is you start to realize that it is fear that holds us back more than anything else. Because if you were absolutely guaranteed a success, you'd be unstoppable. I mean, you would be a force of nature. If someone were to put a blessing on you and say that you are indestructible and you could accomplish any goal you ever set for yourself, what different things would you do? Now, when I started off, I came from a poor family. I say I came by my feelings of guilt and unworthiness, honestly. I grew up with no self-confidence, no self-esteem. I was kicked out of school several times. I misbehaved. I ended up spending half of my school in the library because I was kicked out of courses. I left school in the 12th grade and got a job as a dishwasher, worked as a laborer, lived in my car, dug ditches and things like that. So I had no self-esteem. And I began studying the subject over the years, and I found that your level of self-confidence, how much confidence you have in yourself to be, do, accomplish something, really determines the whole quality of your life. Self-confidence is essential in business because it's impossible even to start a business, to arrange a bank loan, to set up customers, to hire people, to all the things that are necessary in business require self-confidence. Also, what we have found is that your level of self-confidence is the critical factor in your level of sex appeal, is that the more confident you are, the more appealing you are to other people. The more confident you are, actually the more magnetism you have. That's why actors and actresses who seem to be extremely confident have a certain amount of magnetism. So confidence not only is really important for us, it makes us feel happy, it affects and empowers other people, it causes people to treat us differently, we make more sales, we make more money, we marry better, we're better and more effective socially. Self-confidence is everything. I find that there's three factors that interfere with our self-confidence. Number one factor is doubt and fear. Doubt and fear. This is really the greatest problem that human beings have. Throughout all of history, throughout all the books of religion and spiritual works and philosophy and psychology, fear and doubt and fear hold us back more than anything else. And then second of all, it's feelings of guilt and unworthiness. Feelings of guilt and unworthiness. And these are universal. And then finally, number three, is we have feelings of inferiority and undeservingness. It's absolutely amazing. They've done lots of work with AIDS patients, and they find that some people who have AIDS live for years and years and years, and some die. And they found that the critical thing is the feeling of worthlessness. Is people come down with the disease and they feel that there's something wrong with them and they lose their heart. Viktor Frankl, when he was in the Nazi death camps at Auschwitz, said as long as people believed in something, they stayed alive. As soon as they stopped believing, they just died. And so we all have these feelings. In fact, a feeling of undeservingness is one of the dirty little secrets that we have with regard to success. As you've heard the old expression, fear of success. It's no such thing as fear of success. It's just a pop suggestion. It's feelings of undeservingness. We don't feel that we're worth it. And so people who unconsciously don't feel that they're worth very much, they will work very hard on the outside to achieve success, and then they'll sabotage themselves. So these are the big three. And where do doubts and fears come from? Where does guilt and unworthiness come from? Imagine if you had no doubt at all, completely self-confident, no fears at all. Is if you felt fabulous about yourself and your ability to accomplish things. If you felt like you deserved all good things in the world, think how much different you would be. And then you look at people who are really successful and happy, and that's the way they are. And as it happens, nobody starts out that way. So I began studying this, and this is really what got me going, and I have now been teaching for 25 years, but I began with these very principles we're talking about today. So what we know is that all habits, including emotional habits, are learned. And this is an interesting concept that came about studying the works of Ouspensky, who wrote The Turn of the Last Century. But emotional habits, or ways of feeling, ways of responding emotionally, are all learned. They are not fixed. They're almost like vagrant emotions. They have no home in the subconscious. If they were fixed, and certain phobias and certain mental illness is fixed. If they were fixed, they're locked in. You can't get them out. But as it happens, 99.9% of our emotional responses, especially negative ones, are actually unlearnable. You can actually defuse them. You can actually pull the wires that keep them functioning and get rid of them. And if you couldn't get rid of them, of course, you could never improve. But the very fact that you can get rid of them means that you could accomplish anything. So I began studying success. I got into sales. How many people here are in sales? Yeah. Well, that's what I got into when I couldn't get a laboring job as well. So I got into sales and I spun my wheels, and I finally began asking the question, why is it that some salespeople are more successful than others? What I learned, which turned my life around, which you've heard before, is the law of cause and effect. Now, the law of cause and effect says that for every effect in your life, for everything that's going on, there's a cause. That we live in a universe that is governed by law. This is often called the iron law of the universe, the iron law of human destiny, because it says that everything that is happening to you is happening for a reason. So the law of cause and effect says that if you can be clear about an effect that you desire, you can trace it back, and by finding someone else who's gotten that effect, if you do the same things that they do over and over again, you'll get the same result. Well, the great practice or the great application of the law of cause and effect, which has been the foundation principle of human society, psychology, religion, philosophy, metaphysics, and so on, is that thoughts are causes. Thoughts are causes. And conditions are effects. And this is an extraordinary breakthrough. Because most people believe, falsely, that their situation in life is determined by factors outside of themselves. And I'll come back to this later because it's very important. Whereas the fact is that our thoughts, which are the only thing that we control, and which we do control, determine everything that happens to us in life. They determine the quality of our life, the quality of our relationships, the quality of our health, how long we live, how much money we earn, the home we live in, the friends and social relationships we have, our level of happiness and self-confidence. Thoughts are causes and conditions are effects. And over the last 5,000 years, a series of mental laws have been discovered. In fact, back before the time of Christ, there were what were called mystery schools. And mystery schools were schools of people who would withdraw to the mountains, and they would study for years. And over the course of the years, they would be taught these principles. Today, the great findings of the mystery schools are available to us as simple as gumdrops and newspapers. But 99.9% of people have not discovered them. So I want to give you some of the discoveries in the mystery schools. The second law discovered in the mystery schools was the law of belief. The law of belief has a great cultural heritage. It's the foundation of virtually all religions and all philosophies. And it basically says this, is whatever you believe with feeling becomes your reality. Whatever you believe with feeling becomes your reality. If you strongly believe it, your mind actually sorts out and creates almost a strainer effect, and you see the world through what is called a screen of beliefs. You do not see the world as it is, as the writer Anais Nin once said, you see the world as you are. That you actually deliberately ignore things that are inconsistent with your beliefs, and you only see things that are consistent with your beliefs. So therefore, the law of belief is very powerful. Now here's the great tragedy, is some people have beliefs, and we don't need to go into geopolitics, but some people have beliefs that are, first of all, not based on reality. They are based on completely false information, which they're passionately attached to, and which are life-destroying as opposed to life-enhancing. We'll give you an example. When I had my first child many years ago, one of the child psychology books about raising children said the role of the parent is to break the will of the child at an early age. And as it happened, that was a common teaching in the 20s, 30s, 40s, even into the 50s, is that children, if they're too willful, will not respond well to instructions from their parents, so the parent's job is to break the will of the child. Well, you can imagine, we have a lot of grown people in our society who were raised by parents with that idea, and they're broken people. They're angry, they're drunk, they're alcoholic, they're overweight, like young colts. They were broken. So the law of belief says that we act based on our beliefs, even though we have self-limiting beliefs. Now here's a very interesting point, is that no one's born with any beliefs. Every belief you have about yourself, your potential, the world, religion, politics, people, anything, every belief you had to be taught meticulously with very careful instruction, repeated over and over again. The worst of all beliefs are self-limiting beliefs. Now, self-limiting beliefs are beliefs where you believe yourself to be limited in some way. And so the starting point of using the law of belief on your behalf is, first of all, you ask yourself, what beliefs would it be useful or helpful to me to have? And imagine that you could go to the belief store and buy a belief like a piece of software and program it into your hard drive so it became part of your operating system. But you could only choose one belief. What would be a good belief to buy? I spent 18 years studying the biographies of more than 500 men and women who had started with nothing and became successful. And he was looking for the common denominator of success. He found that every single one of these people throughout their lives absolutely believed that they were going to be a big success. They absolutely believed they were going to be a big success when they grew up, and no matter what happened to them in their adult lives, and they never lost sight of that. Like the three wise men following the star, they felt that everything that happened was part of the process. Every setback was a lesson. Every pain was something sent to teach them something that would be helpful, and they never stopped believing in themselves. So if you could buy one belief, the belief is this, is that you are destined to be a big success, that you have incredible potential, that you're surrounded by incredible opportunities, and that you're going to be a huge success in life, and everything that's happened up to now is part of your preparation. Challenge your self-limiting beliefs. Don't ever say, I can't do that, or I'm not good at that, or something else. No, wait and say, wait, what if that's totally false? What if deep down inside of you had the ability to be extraordinary at something that's important to you? Whether it's skiing or skydiving or mathematics or selling or earning money or running a business. You probably have more ability than you can dream of, but don't sell yourself short. Now, in the Bible, it says, according to your faith, it is done unto you. That's one of the most important principles of the New Testament. In the Old Testament, it says, as a man thinketh in his heart, and the heart stands for the subconscious mind, which means a deep belief, so is he, or so is she. Now, William James says, beliefs create the actual fact. Is that if you have the belief, it actually becomes the fact, because you always act in a manner consistent with the belief, and as a result, you get the results consistent with your actions. And you can control your beliefs. Is it easy to change your beliefs, especially old negative? No, it's not easy. Is it possible? Absolutely. Is it easy to lose weight? No. Is it possible? Of course it is. Now, the number 3 law is called the law of expectation. Your expectations largely determine the quality of your life in this sense, is that whatever you expect with confidence becomes your self-fulfilling prophecy. Whatever you expect with confidence becomes your own self-fulfilling prophecy. In other words, you are always telling your future by the way you talk about how you think things are going to turn out. You are like a fortune teller in your own life. And if you believe that things are going to turn out well, if you expect them to turn out well, then by gum, they do. If you believe that you're going to be popular and that people are going to buy and that you have a great product and a great company and you're going to have a great life. Now, along with the law of attraction, there's a couple of other laws. One is called the law of vibration. And the law of vibration, as you know, everything in the physical universe is in vibration, even thoughts. Now, what causes a thought to vibrate is the emotional component of the thought. A thought with no emotion just lies there. An emotion with no thinking is just out of control, like a random molecule. But a thought which is impelled by an emotion sets up a force field of energy that attracts into your life people, ideas, and resources necessary to achieve the thought. And the more powerful the emotion, the faster it comes into action. Now, the interesting thing is all these laws are neutral. If you believe negative things, then that's what you will see, that's what you'll perceive, that's what you'll experience. If you expect negative things to happen, that's what will happen as well. So don't talk about things you don't want, because your mind is so powerful. It's this powerful engine that is sending out vibrations and attracting into your life people and circumstances in harmony with the things you're saying and the thoughts that you're thinking. If you're thinking negative thoughts, you're attracting those things into your life. Car crashes and burglaries and broken dishes and ripped hose and all kinds of things happen if you think negatively. So we say that you are a living magnet, and there's a second law. It's called the law of sympathetic resonance. Now, let me give you an example of the law of sympathetic resonance, which affects your life. If you had two pianos in a large room, and you went over and you hit the note of C sharp on this piano, bang, and you walked across the room to the other piano, the string of C sharp would be vibrating in perfect harmony with the string vibrating on the piano that you struck. Are you with me so far? Why? It's called sympathetic resonance. Now, where is sympathetic resonance especially relevant is when we meet the right person for ourselves. Khalil Gibran says that there will be a moment of recognition at the moment of meeting, instantaneous. You walked into a place and you saw the person and your eyes met across a crowded room. It was instantaneous. Well, it's the same thing. The law of attraction is a very interesting law, but it says that whatever thoughts you're thinking, positive or negative, are sending out this force field of energy that's attracting into your life people and circumstances in harmony with it. Now, thought energy is a very fine energy. You know, if you were talking about throwing bullets or basketballs, you couldn't get them through the wall. The thought energy travels at 186,000 miles a second, like the speed of light, and it can literally go across the world instantaneously and through all substances. I'll give you an example of the law of attraction that you've experienced many times. You're talking to your friend about somebody else, and the phone rings and it's them. You ever had that happen? And you say, we were just talking about you. And the other person says, well, I just had this impulse to phone you. This happens throughout your life. If it happened once or twice, you could say, well, that's an interesting coincidence. But if it happens repeatedly throughout your life, then you know that there's a law at work. So how do you use the law of sympathetic resonance, the law of attraction? It's very simple. You keep your mind on what you want. And you think about what you want in very positive terms. You think about things that make you happy. You think about people that you love, and you think about success experiences. Interesting difference between winners and losers. Can you guess? Prior to every sales call or experience, both of them visualize and recall a memory. But winners recall their previous success experience and how happy they were about that. And non-winners recall their previous unhappy experience and how bad they felt and how depressed they felt and how unsuccessful and so on. So winners think of their past success experience and they set up a force field of energy that largely creates that experience. Sometimes when you walk into a room, if you are really up, people will turn their head. I mean, the vibrations will hit them. They'll turn their head. They'll notice that you've come into the room. So this is very much determined by the thoughts that you're thinking. We'll talk about this as we go along. So the law of attraction says you're constantly attracting into your life people, circumstances, ideas, resources in harmony with your dominant thoughts, but it is a neutral law. Nature is neutral in this sense. If you think negative thoughts and worried thoughts and anxious thoughts and angry thoughts, that's what you attract into your life. And so it's really important that you be aware of that. Okay, the next law is called the law, I've written these down here. There's actually 32. Oh, it's one of my favorite. It's called the law of correspondence. I love this one. It's kind of a summary law in many ways, and it has an equation, and the equation is this. This is my favorite equation. Remember this for the rest of your life. The law of correspondence, which is talked about in the New Testament, the Old Testament, and many of the old books, simply says, as within, so without. As within, so without. What it says is that your entire world around you is a mirror that reflects back to you your dominant thoughts. We say wherever you look, there you are. It's almost like you live in a 360-degree mirror. And wherever you look, you see yourself reflected back. Now, the 3 or 4 places where this is most common is, first of all, your relationships. Now, remember, human beings are extraordinarily sensitive, so that if you have negative thoughts going on about anything, you affect the relationships close to you instantaneously. They'll pick it up across a crowded room. Women, by the way, are far better at this than men. Men are kind of like blocks of cheese, but women are like high-tech computers. If you ever had an experience, every man's had an experience, they phone home, they say, hi. She says, what's wrong? That's all you said is hi or hello. She said, what's wrong? Is it your boss again? How did you know? A woman can pick it up with a single word. You can walk in the door and say hi, and she'll just go, instantly, she'll just read it. With regard to relationships, your relationships almost instantaneously will show you what's going on inside your own thoughts. If you're feeling happy, your relationships will reflect it immediately. If you're unhappy or angry for some reason, they'll reflect it immediately. A second area, by the way, has to do with income. Is your outer world of income will be determined by your inner world of attitude toward money, earning, productivity, performance, and everything else. With regard to your health, your inner world of attitude toward health, food, diet, fitness, everything else determines your external world of health. And so, and also to success. If you believe that you're going to be a big success, if you believe it on the inside, then you'll see it. It'll be reflected back to you in your outer world. Remember, most people look at a mirror. If they don't like what's in the mirror, they bang and pound the mirror. But intelligent people realize that whatever they see in their outer world is coming from themselves. So they always ask this great question, is what is it in me? What is it in me that is causing what's going on in my environment? Now this is the question of the superior person. The average person always tries to blame something in their external environment or someone, past, present, future. So the next law is called the law of subconscious activity. Now the law of subconscious activity, and there's all kinds of stuff that is written for popular reading. The law of subconscious activity basically says that your subconscious mind functions automatically. It is like clay. It takes the imprint of your conscious thoughts, and then it makes all your words and actions consistent with your previous programming. It makes your words and actions consistent with what you've put in the past. So it does not think, it does not create. All it does is keeps everything going. Your subconscious mind is also the seat of the autonomic nervous system, which handles and regulates the exact balance of hundreds of chemicals in every single one of the hundreds of billions of cells of your body on a moment-to-moment basis. They say the subconscious mind makes 500 million commands a second. I mean, that's how fast it does. It basically keeps a chemical balance of every single cell in your body at a perfect level. People who say, you know, human beings just emerged out of the primordial muck as a result of a couple of chemical mixes and a couple of lightning strikes really need a checkup from the neck up, because when you look at the incredible complexity of the human system, it's literally beyond belief. We are so complicated, and if one little thing was out, if one little feature was out in our eyes none of us could see, either long distance or short distance, one little feature was out in our bloods, hearts, veins, anything else, we would not survive. And you take hundreds of thousands and millions of these little things that are so perfectly calibrated. Lots of research has been on this. It's a phenomenal thing. But anyway, is keep asking, your subconscious activity is subject to programming. It's sort of like if you program your computer, what do we say? GIGO stands for what? Garbage in, garbage out, but it also means good in, good out. So if you reprogram the commands going to your subconscious computer, you get new programming. That's why most programs, when they come off the production line, have what? Bugs and defects. And so what they do, the professionals go through, the engineers go through and they debug it. One of the things we need to do to fulfill our potential to have high self-confidence is to debug. And we need to go back through and take out all those little ideas and misconceptions and feelings and concepts and beliefs which are not consistent with being happy and joyous. They say the fruits of the Spirit are joy and self-control. And so if you're not feeling completely in control of your world and experiencing joy, it means there's something wrong with the computer. So what we do is we say, oh, must have gotten a bug in there, and we don't get upset about it. We say, where's that bug? And we just go to work. Sometimes just challenging one thought can transform your life. And this brings us to the greatest discovery of the 20th century, the discovery of the self-concept. I call this the master program. And each person has a self-concept. And this self-concept is a combination of all your thoughts, feelings, beliefs, doubts, hopes, fears, and experiences throughout your entire life that come together to make you the kind of person you are today. Now, we know that the only thing that is unique about you is your mind. Everything else the human being has in common with a horse or a monkey. The only thing that you have that makes you distinct and unique is your mind, and every single person is completely different because every single person has had hundreds of thousands of different experiences at different times to which they've responded and interpreted differently. So your mind is unique in all the world. There cannot be two of you if there are 50 billion human beings. And what they discovered was the self-concept. And what we found is that your performance and your effectiveness is determined by your self-concept. How you perform and behave on the outside, how you treat with other people, what you accomplish is all determined by your internal programming. So if I can give you a little bit of a graph here, here's a graph. We say that your level of effectiveness is determined by your self-concept. How effective you are as a person, as a salesperson, as a parent, as a spouse, as a friend, as a writer, whatever you do, your self-concept and your level of effectiveness have a one-to-one relationship. You've also heard it said that the average person uses only 10% of their potential. Well, this means that there's fully 90% of your potential left untapped. Some people only use a small part of their potential, but imagine that you could earn twice as much, 3 times as much, 5 times as much, just by using more of your potential. Well, according to the Stanford Brain Institute, that did some studies on this, actually cadaver studies, the average person really only uses about 2% of their potential. They're saving up the rest for some good purpose that we don't know yet. But the average person functions on 2%. 2% gets you the entire quality of your life that you have today. That means, by the way, average is 2%, some are less than that. Some use less than that. And what we do is we use it to get up in the morning, brush our teeth, go to work, go home, watch television. But we don't use it for very much. But let's just pretend and say we use 10% of our potential. That means that your self-concept is limited to only 10% as well. We also know that each person has a series of mini self-concepts. Now, you have a self-concept for every part of your life or work that you consider to be important. For example, you have a self-concept for every sport that you play. You have a self-concept for how well you sell. You have a self-concept for how you dress and for how much you weigh. You have a self-concept for your creative ability and your memory, your ability to tell stories, your sense of humor. You have a self-concept for your appearance. You have a self-concept for any kind of musical instrument or anything else you do. You have a self-concept for how much money you earn. What they have found is that every person has a self-concept which is like a thermostat. And this self-concept with regard to money, you never go more than 10% above or below your self-concept level of income. If you earn 10% or more above your self-concept level of income, you immediately go into what I call throwaway behaviors. You do everything possible to get rid of the money. You give it away, you spend it, you go out for dinner, you buy champagne, you order drinks for everybody at the bar. That's why if ever you win a prize or something, the very first thing you think of, let's go on a vacation, buy a motorhome, get some jewelry. And 68% of people who win the lottery are broke again within 3 years. They have more money than they've ever had in their life, but it takes them so far out of their self-concept that they go just like a rocket that goes off course and starts to spin, and they go crazy. So if you earn 10% or more below your self-concept level of income, you engage in what are called scrambling behaviors, and you scramble to get your income back up. But once you're into that 10% range, well, plus or minus, you relax. And this becomes your comfort zone. This becomes your comfort zone. And the great enemy of human success is the comfort zone. In this comfort zone, you're comfortable. Now, you may not be happy with the amount that you're earning, but you just become comfortable with that amount. The only way that you can increase your income is to change your self-concept in relationship to income. And what we know is that your overall self-concept is determined by your self-concept in all the areas of your life that you consider important. We also know this, is that your self-concept is made up of 3 parts. Again, this is basic behavioral psychology. Number 1, it's made up of your self-ideal. Now, your self-ideal, like 3 wedges of a pie, consists of your values, it consists of your ideals, it consists of your goals, it consists of your hopes, it consists of your dreams, it consists of all those things that are inside you. And what we know is that there's a direct relationship between how clear you are about your goals and ideals and your self-ideal. What do we know about top people? Top people are clear about what they believe in, and they don't compromise their values. What do we know about little people, weak people? Is they're very confused about their values and they compromise them for the slightest advantage. So my point is that people with a very clear self-ideal are much stronger and more powerful people than people who are unclear about their ideals. The second part of your self-concept is called your self-image. And there's hundreds of books on self-image psychology, but basically what they say is your self-image is the way you see about yourself and the way you think about yourself. Your self-image is called your inner mirror. Whenever you go to do anything, you check this mirror like a stage performer checking the mirror before they go on the stage. Before you go in to see somebody in a sales call, you just kind of check your inner mirror to see, how do I perform in sales calls? And your performance on the outside is largely determined by your self-image, 1-to-1. Remember that ratio. The third part of your self-concept is your self-esteem. Now, your self-esteem is the most important part of all. This is the emotional part of your personality. This is what I call the nuclear reactor core. This is the energy source. This is the power in the human personality. Your level of self-esteem determines your level of vitality, energy, personality, sense of humor, creativity, personal strength, influence, persuasiveness, and so on. So your self-esteem is critical, and your self-esteem is defined as how much you like yourself. How much you like yourself is the measure of your self-esteem, how much you like yourself. Here's an interesting point, is whenever your self-esteem, your self-image, your personal performance is consistent with your self-ideal, the person that you would most like to be, your self-esteem goes up. Whenever you do anything that is consistent with the best person you can be, you feel happy, you feel proud, you have greater self-respect, you have more energy. Whenever you do something that's not like you, you blow up, you get mad, you swear, you do something that, that's not consistent with the best person you could be, your self-esteem takes a hit. But when you start to act in a way consistent with the best that you know, your self-esteem goes up. Well, here's the most important part, going down here, is we say that the most powerful words you'll ever learn are the words, I like myself. I like myself. I like myself. Whenever you say the words, I like myself, your overall self-concept goes up. Your self-image improves and your self-ideal clarifies. And as your self-image, as your self-concept goes up, your performance and your behavior in every part of your life goes up as well. They say the flip side of self-esteem, like a coin, is called self-efficacy in psychology. And self-efficacy is how competent you are. So whenever you do something well, your self-esteem goes up and you like yourself more. And the more you like yourself, the better you do. And the better you do, the more you like yourself. And the more you like yourself, the better you do, and you get onto an upward spiral. So what we found is the most powerful words that you can use prior to any event of importance are the words, I like myself. Say it. Say, I like myself. I like myself. Now say it like you mean. Say, I like myself. I like myself. Now you notice the first time you say it, and I went through this many, many years ago, the first time you say it, you may feel a little uncomfortable. Some of you didn't say it with too much enthusiasm. You said it because everybody else was saying it, but you felt a little bit guilty, like undeserving. Like that's, like a little bit, it's not quite right. Well, that's perfectly normal. It's perfectly normal. What it means is somebody's programmed some kind of defect into your computer, a piece of negative information that's inconsistent with liking yourself. And what happens, it's called cognitive dissonance in psychology. The new message hits the old garbage and goes bang, like a bang, and it creates a stress. And the stress is felt like a feeling of discomfort. So whenever you say the words, I'm the best. I'm the best. I like myself. I like myself. When you say these words, the first time you say them, you may feel a little uncomfortable because they may feel to be, not consistent with reality. But the more you repeat them, it's like driving a pile in a river. The more you repeat them, you drive them deeper and deeper into your subconscious mind, and gradually these words will reprogram all the old garbage in there and blow it away, almost like a psychological roto-rooter. So you get up in the morning saying, I like myself, I like myself, I like myself, I like myself. You go through the day, I like myself, I like myself. And when we're in business, our self-esteem is taking a hit all the time, like a tire or an inner tube losing air, so you have to keep pumping it up. I like myself, I like myself, I like myself, I like myself. Somebody's rude, slams down the phone, shows you to the door, waste your time. I like myself, I like myself, I like myself, I like myself, I like myself. You've got to keep yourself up. You make it a game. Now, I don't suggest you say this in crowded washrooms or elevators, but just say it to yourself on a regular basis, because the idea of liking yourself is the purest and most positive statement you can give from your conscious mind to your subconscious mind, because it's like mummy's kisses. It makes everything okay. It takes all the pain away. It's impossible to like yourself and feel negative. It's impossible to like yourself and be angry. It's impossible to like yourself and be worried. And your mind can only hold one thought at a time, positive or negative. So if you keep repeating, I like myself, 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 what happens is eventually it becomes a habit of thinking. You wake up in the morning and say, I like myself. Throughout the day you say, I like myself. Somebody's rude or difficult to you, you say, it doesn't bother me, I like myself. And you act like it. Now initially, it'll be like getting fit. Your muscles will be stiff, your emotional muscles will be stiff. But after a while, it starts to become automatic. And whenever you have any kind of negative event, you can immediately zap it by saying, oh, wait a minute, I like myself. Now, here's the most wonderful thing. The more you like yourself, the more you like other people. And the more you like other people, the more they like you right back. And what do you think is the foundation of self-confidence? How much you like yourself, self-esteem. The more you like yourself, the higher your level of self-confidence. The more you like yourself, the less you feel fear, failure, and rejection. The less you're worried about negative events and negative experiences. You fall on your face, you pick yourself up. People fall down, people make mistakes. Life goes on. So in other words, things don't bother you because you actually develop almost like a Teflon cover around your emotions, and you become a completely positive person. Remember in the 60s there that poster that says, I do not love you for yourself, but for the way you make me feel when I'm with you. Do you know the most powerful thing you can do in your relationships with other people is to make them like themselves? Is to say things and do things with them, not manipulatively, but positively, that cause them to like themselves. Compliment them on the way they look. Thank them for being punctual. Praise them for their accomplishments. Say little things, nice things that make me feel happy. Say thank you. Causes people to like themselves. If you go through the world, sort of like a hummingbird going from flower to flower, making people feel important, making people like themselves, you'll be one of the most popular people there is. Everybody will be happy to see you. Everybody brighten up when they know you're coming. Everybody brighten up when you walk in the office, because whenever they see you, you make them feel good about themselves. But you can't give away something you don't have. You can't make other people feel good about themselves unless you feel good about yourself. But the wonderful thing is, if you really like yourself, you spontaneously and naturally do and say the things that cause other people to feel good about themselves. You don't have to think what I'm going to say, how am I going to do this. You don't have to do a damn thing. All you have to do is just stand there and like yourself, and you'll automatically do and say the right things. You'll attract into your life wonderful people. Your expectations for yourself will be positive. You'll believe that good things are happening to you. You're constantly... reprogram your subconscious mind. You develop a positive emotional habit of high self-esteem and high self-confidence. So if you change your thinking, you change your life, and you can change it because you can change your life by changing what you say to yourself. And when you talk to yourself in a positive way, your self-confidence goes up, your self-esteem goes up, your relationships improve, your sales will go up. Direct relationship between self-esteem and sales success. Direct relationship between self-esteem and raising happy, healthy children. High self-esteem parents raise high self-esteem kids. High self-esteem adults meet and marry by the law of attraction other high self-esteem adults and have high self-esteem relationships where everybody's happy. Are you with me so far? So we say, okay, we all agree with this. We should all have high self-esteem. Well, what is the problem? Well, the problem is negative emotions. And the greatest single challenge we have are negative emotions and negative habit patterns. Positive habit patterns are joy, love, spontaneous humor, happiness, compassion, and so on. But negative emotions are the greatest enemy of all. We can only improve our lives to the degree to which we free ourselves from our negative emotions. And the good news is that no child is born with any negative emotions. All negative emotions are learned from infancy onward. And that's a good thing, because if it was not true, then we could not get rid of them. Because if it was part, like our eye color or our hair color or our height, we couldn't get rid of it. But it's not genetic, it's not fixed, it's learned, and it is therefore relearnable or unlearnable. You can, in other words, just reach in and short circuit the negative emotion circuits which we've learned. So here's some of the things that we know about negative emotions. And when I began studying this, I spent something like 5 years studying this, and it changed my whole life. Is we know that negative emotions are the greatest single obstacles to success. They're the things that hold us back more than anything else. And let me show you where negative emotions, the negative emotions tree. This is a negative emotions tree. This is my own creation, by the way. Here's the trunk, here's the ground, and here's the roots. Okay. Now, where do negative emotions, first of all, what are the most popular negative emotions? There's about 54 negative emotions in the textbooks, but the worst of all are fear. Fear is a terrible negative emotion. And then there is a doubt, which we talked about before. That's a killer. And then there's envy, which goes along with resentment. Envy and resentment are like twin sisters that go around together. Because if you envy somebody their success, you resent them their success. And of course there's jealousy, what Shakespeare called the green-eyed monster. Jealousy is a terrible thing, which comes from low self-esteem. People experience jealousy when they feel that I'm not good enough. And then there's hatred. And then, worst of all, there's anger. Now, we know that the roots of the negative emotion tree, and by the way, there's lots more, but the roots of the negative emotion tree are two things. They're, first of all, I'll put this up here, they're justification. What we find is that it is impossible to have a negative emotion or a negative feeling of any kind unless you can justify it, unless you can explain why you are entitled to this negative emotion. Why what someone else has done or not done entitles you to this negative emotion. So if we stop justifying, in the Bible, which is a book on psychological and spiritual development, in the Bible, in the Sermon on the Mount, it says, judge not that you be not judged. You see, because if you judge, you become a hanging judge, you automatically condemn. If you judge and condemn, you justify and create negative emotions. The worst thing of all is it doesn't affect the other person, it affects you. So if we stop justifying, the negative emotion starts to die. The second part is identification. Identification is where you take things personally. And this is very common. We hear of something that happened, we take it personally, we become angry and upset of something that's happened to someone somewhere else. So if you don't justify and tell yourself you're entitled to this emotion, if you don't identify and take it personally, the emotion starts to die. The fruit starts to die. However, what's more important is the trunk of the tree. The trunk of the negative emotion tree is blame. And all negative emotions require, for their survival, blame. If you stop blaming, you stop the negative emotion. And it's almost like your negative emotion tree is like a Christmas tree that's plugged into the wall. If you jerk it out of the wall, if you jerk it out of the wall and you cut down the trunk, if you stop blaming, all your negative emotions stop. So the key is to stop blaming. And the way that you stop blaming is with a very simple 3-word neutralizer or zapper, and it is the words, I am responsible. I am responsible. So say it. Say, I am responsible.
I am responsible.
So from now on, whenever you think of anything that makes you mad, just say, wait a minute, I'm responsible. I'm responsible. I'm responsible. You see, your mind can only hold one thought at a time, positive or negative. It cannot hold the thought of responsibility and the thought of anger at the same time. Now, people are going to give me every conceivable response to this position because nobody wants to give up their negative emotions. Doggone it, you've paid for those negative emotions. You've spent years keeping them alive and fertilizing them and justifying them and talking them over with other people and putting water on them and thinking about them and so on. People love their negative emotions. To get them away, you almost need a crowbar to get people to give up their negative emotions. In fact, what we have found is that if you have just one negative emotion that you will not part with, that alone can sabotage your whole life. So the starting point of your achieving the greatness that is possible for you is to get rid of the negative emotions. So when we talk about I am responsible, your ability to respond in an effective way is the critical measure of how much you've become as a human being. In other words, if you can respond effectively to crises, problems, upsets, which may not be legally your fault, if you can respond positively and effectively, it means that you've come a long way. It means you've become one of the best developed human beings on our planet. Because average human beings fall apart, get angry, blow up, go into chaos, throw fits, have tears, threaten to sue, and pour drink down their throat and everything else when they have a reversal. But not top people. Top people say, stay calm here. What's happened? Let's look at it. What do we do now? What's our next action, and so on. So by saying I am responsible, whenever you feel something angry, you neutralize the negative emotion. If you keep repeating the words I am responsible over and over again, pretty soon they become an automatic mantra. Something happens, you start to become angry, you instantly say, wait a minute, I'm responsible. So we know that no child is born with any negative emotions. Children come into the world and they have an incredible need for love. Love is the most powerful need that children have. The child needs love like roses need rain. They come in completely pure. They have no negative emotions at all, except for 2. They have only 2 fears, fears of falling and fears of loud noises. All other negative emotions must be taught to the child from childhood. When a child comes into the world, they have 2 wonderful characteristics. First of all, they're completely uninhibited. They laugh, they puke, they pee, they poop, they cry, they do whatever they want. In other words, they're completely uninhibited. They have no inhibitions at all. As far as the child's concerned, the child can do anything. I can do anything. These are the words of the early child. The second characteristic a child comes into the world with is they're completely spontaneous. They do exactly what they want. They say what they want. They cry, they gurgle, they pee, they squeal, they play, they do whatever they want. They say, I don't have to do anything. You notice that with children? I don't have to. And so these are the two characteristics. Very early in life, because of mistakes that parents make in upbringing, especially destructive criticism and conditional love or withdrawn love, children begin to develop the two major clusters of negative habit patterns from which all others come. Almost emotional cancers, if you like. The first is they develop the inhibited negative habit pattern, or inhibitive negative habit pattern. The inhibitive negative habit pattern is characterized by the words, I can't. When the child is young, the child wants to touch and taste and smell and feel and get anything and touch things and grab knives and crawl around and run out in traffic. And parents often say, don't, get away from this, stop that, put that down. How many times have I told you? And they punish the child, at an early age when the child is incapable of comprehending why the parent is getting so upset. All the child hears is the parent's angry voice, and sometimes the physical punishment and the shouting and the putting in their bedroom or putting in their crib. The child at a very early age starts to develop this idea, I'm too little, I'm small, I'm incompetent, I'm incapable, I can't. So every time they try something, they get a spank or a punishment, I can't. What happens is that this child begins to form this impression that I can't, and as the child grows, the child begins to extend it to the rest of the world. I can't learn this, I can't do this, I can't get a good grade, I can't get a good job, I can't form a good relationship. As adults, whenever the child is confronted with a new risky proposition for which there's no guarantees, the natural response is, I can't. What if I lose? What if it costs me money? We call this the fear of failure. And the fear of failure is the greatest single obstacle to success in adult life. Now here's an interesting thing, physiologically, is the fears are actually experienced in the human body. And we feel it first of all in the solar plexus, then in the heart, then in the throat, then in the head, and sometimes... in the bladder. Well, the next negative habit pattern, number 2, is called the compulsive negative habit pattern. And the compulsive negative habit pattern, which is the second constellation, is characterized by the words, I have to. And it's associated with what we call the fear of rejection. The fear of rejection, the fear of criticism, the fear of disapproval, which is terribly important to us as members of a society. And the compulsive negative habit pattern is trained into children when they are told at an early age, if you don't, you're going to get this. If you don't do this, then this. And what it's associated with is what is called conditional love. Now, since children need love more than anything else, the threat of taking away the love and approval is terrifying to them. Is whenever you think of something that you want to do, you say, I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. Say, I can do it.
I can do it.
And say, when you repeat this, say, I can do it. I can do it. Whenever you think of anything, picking up the phone, calling the customer, taking a chance, just say to yourself, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it. And what it does is each time you say that, your fears go down and your confidence goes up. It's almost like they're on a teeter-totter. As you build your confidence, your fears go down. And whenever you feel under compulsion, just say, I don't have to. I don't have to. I choose to do this, but I don't have to. I don't have to. I don't have to. So, one of the critical manifestations of negative emotions that deflates our self-confidence, and you notice this, all these fears hold back our self-confidence. Fears we can't, fears we have to, fears we have to please other people won't like us, we may lose our time or money. All they translate into the worst, one of the worst of negative emotions, which is guilt. Guilt goes around with her twin sister, unworthiness. is we feel unworthy. Now, it's interesting is that no child grows up with guilt. Most of the main religions in the world have, at a very early stage, inculcated guilt as a fundamental part of their teachings. And they use it at a very early age because the easiest way to control people is with guilt. So there's two reasons why guilt is practiced deliberately. One is for control, and the other is for manipulation. And control and manipulation, why? It's because they work. If you can get your children to feel guilty at an early age, you can control them like on a fishing string for the rest of your life. And what you do it, first of all, we use destructive criticism. Destructive criticism breaks people down emotionally. And if you criticize them a lot when they're young, they'll feel broken down, their self-confidence is down, their self-esteem is down, and then you use guilt to manipulate them. And the way that you deal with guilt is when anybody ever tries to use guilt on you, you say, "Excuse me, are you trying to make me feel guilty?" And you smile. And they'll say, "Oh, no," because nobody will admit it. At least not the first few times. You say, "That's great, because it doesn't work on me. Guilt doesn't work on me." Oh, good. And then they'll try it again, mother. And you say, "Excuse me, are you trying to make me feel guilty again?" "No." And finally she'll say, "Yes, I am." You say, "Well, it's not going to work. It worked in the past, it doesn't work now." Is always say when a person says anything, "Are you trying to make me feel guilty?" That immediately stops the game. The game only works if it's underground. As soon as you bring it up and put it on the table, the game stops. And you don't allow people to make you feel guilty, because guilt is totally destructive. It destroys your soul. It undermines your self-confidence. It's never too late to have a happy childhood. The work at the University of Pennsylvania says basically that we see the world based on what is called our interpretive style. And your interpretive style is the way you interpret things to yourself. So if you change the way you interpret things to yourself, your attitude toward everything changes. So here's the seventh law, and the seventh law is the law of habit. And the law of habit says that whatever you do repeatedly over and over again becomes a new habit. So you can develop any emotional habit. You can develop an emotional habit of confidence, of optimism, of happiness, of joy, of positive expectancy. You can develop a mental habit by simply repeating certain things over and over again until you do it. I'm going to show you how to do that. So here's the bottom line. The bottom line, when you take all these habits together, all these mental principles together, is that you become what you think about most of the time. You become what you think about most of the time. Now, it's not what you think about fleetingly that passes through your mind, but it's what you think about most of the time. As Emerson said, a man is what he thinks about all day long. So the question is, what do you think about most of the time? And the rule is, if you change your thinking, you change your life. If you change your thinking, you change your life. And there is no other way.